Finally, it's payday. This is usually between the 24th and the 29th for most NHS organizations. Finally, you receive that hard-earned money that you've worked for the last month. You'd have a look at the payslip and wondered, why am I getting deducted all these amounts of money from my pay even before it finally reaches me? Have you looked at it and said, what is going on here? A lot of us out there don't understand what is written in our NHS payslip. Thankfully, I understand the NHS Payslip. Do you want to know what each of these deductions and each of the sections mean in the NHS Payslip? I will help in demystifying what all the NHS Payslip jargon means so you can easily understand what your actual take-home is, and you can then be able to query your NHS Payslip confidently with SBS. As an NHS professional working within HR, we get a lot of phone calls between the 24th and the 30th of each month about payslips. What is the most question that people tend to ask is always underpayment. Not usually overpayment, because people tend not to talk about the overpayment in their pay. But this is actually wrong. You need to also inform us if you've been overpaid. Did you know that not alerting payroll or SBS about an overpayment might actually lead to a fraud investigation being carried out? We don't want that, do we? It can also lead to a disciplinary action, which is where I come in most situations. I've been involved in a lot of disciplinary investigations where fraud is the main thing. If you want to know what can cause you to be involved in a disciplinary investigation, leave a comment in the comment section and I can do a video on that. Understanding what each line in your payslip is crucial for you to know if you've been overpaid or underpaid. This is even more important for you, especially if you're an international recruit where you've not seen your payments that goes into your bank account being spelled out correctly. In the UK, each employee is entitled to receive a payslip either digitally or in paper form. You can either receive your payslip via email or in paper form, or you can receive this payslip sent directly into your employee profile. Depending on what organization you use will determine how your payslip is sent to you. The NHS is now trying to go paperless, so most NHS organizations now want to send you your payslip via email, so you can easily download this through your employee online. The employee online payslip would always be made available a couple of days before your payment gets into your bank account. So if you have employee online in your NHS organization, just go there, say from the 23rd or 22nd of each month. Your payslip should already be made available to you. So then you can even be able to easily look at it to know how much you're actually going to be getting paid between the 24th and the 29th of the month. In this video today, we'll be going over each line and each section of the payslip with an expectation of the amount of money they're expecting every month. And as long as that money is consistently the same, they don't necessarily worry about looking at their payslip. Sometimes your salary might have gone up without you actually knowing, and it hasn't yet been reflected in your payslip. This is more important for you when you are getting your increment, because sometimes even though you are due an increment, your increment may not have been processed, so you might be losing out on some monies that you're actually entitled to. Hence the reason why you should make sure that you're keeping on top of your payslips to ensure that every money that is being put into your account is accounted for based on hours worked and what you're actually entitled to. The main reason why most people contact HR is mostly because of pay. This is always because the amount they've received that month is usually less than what they actually get. There are so many factors that can affect the reasons as to why the money that you received in that month has changed. This might be due to holiday, might be due to overtime, might be due to bank holiday, or even sickness absence might be a reason as to why your salary has reduced that month. So you might need to definitely speak to someone in HR to be able to understand what has actually happened in your pay that month. In situations of overpayment, you don't worry, we will always contact you once we realize that you've been overpaid. Sometimes you just need to sit back and wait for that phone call from HR to get our money back. A quick story. There was a nurse that left the trust and her leaver form wasn't processed properly. She continued to get paid as current salary in her old trust while being paid normally in her new trust. So she was getting two payments. This went on for nearly a year until when finance was doing the accounts for the year for that team, and they noticed, wait a minute, we don't have this number of people in our team. We have one extra person that we're actually paying salary. It was then later found out that she wasn't processed properly as a leaver, and then we then had to contact her to try and get back our money. What's her excuse? She did not look at her payslip, and this then caused a lot of financial burden to her because she was just getting paid double the amount of money without actually realizing that, wait a minute, I need to actually look at how much I'm actually getting paid. But she had to pay back that money, and this caused a lot of financial strain on her. We don't want you to be caught out with this kind of situation. So please always make sure you're checking your bank account to make sure that it's the right amount of money that is being paid into your account. If you notice any discrepancy in the money, if it's too much or too little, you need to let HR know. Contact them before they contact you, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're having to pay back money you've already spent. A payslip is a legal document that confirms your income and tax payments that you actually make monthly or yearly. Your payslip may be needed to be submitted as proof of income for when you're trying to buy things like a house or you're trying to get some benefits. This shows what is actually going into your bank every month. So it's a very good thing for you to ensure that you know what is actually going on in your pay through your payslip. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel, as this helps my videos on YouTube. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, so I would like for you to subscribe, share and like this video so that other people that might need to know about what it entails with regards to payslip understanding can see this video as well. This is a sample of what an NHS paper payslip looks like. It comes in this kind of form. You get it sent to your home address every month. Some people still, like me, still get my payslip sent to me every month. So I'll have a copy of my payslip like this, and I also have a copy on Employee Online where I can easily download it if I need it to be used for documentations. On the paper payslip, it gives you the directions of how to tear up your payslip. So it will tell you tear off this spot and also the edges, the two sides here that you need to tear off. So it has already been perforated, so you need to just bend it and tear it. It will give you the instructions of the areas to tear. Tearing off where you shouldn't tear off would make your payslip come in pieces. So you need to just follow the instructions on the paper payslip. But the ones online, you don't need to tear off anything. It's just straightforward with that. At the top part of the payslip, it gives you instructions of if you want to change anything with regards to your bank statements. So you fill that in and submit it to SBS. You can either email them or post it to them with regards to the changes. The instructions are in there for you to be able to know what to do. We'll be going now to look at a sample copy of a payslip, and I will explain each section to you of what each of these mean and how to understand what payments are and what deductions are. Let's get into looking at a NHS payslip. This is what a sample payslip would look like. It gives you different sections of the payslip, so I will be going into it section by section. The first part we'll be looking at is the employee profile, which is the first top corner. It gives you your assignment number. It talks about your increment date, which should be the same as to when you started that role. So if you do change job, it will always be the date you started that new role in your job. So for example, if you're a band 5 and you started on the 15th of November or 2021, your next increment date would be the 15th of November 2022. Then in December 10th, you now started a new role as a band 6 of December 10th, 2022. Your next increment date would be December 10th, 2023. So just so that you bear that in mind, this first section just talks about your employee profile. The second part we'll be looking at is the pay and allowance. This talks about your earnings and any benefits you've incurred, the hours that you've worked, and what rate you are being paid at. And it breaks it down into the rate, the amount of hours that you work, and the amount of money that you are being paid for each of those sections. Each of those attributes that have been listed there carry an amount of money that you've been paid. So it kind of gives you the rate as to which you get paid. The third section we'll be looking at is the deduction in terms of your PAYE, your NI, and your pension. So anything to do with any deduction that will be taken out of your salary for that month, it will be listed out there for you to be able to see it in black and white. The next section is the year-to-date balances. So it talks about your gross pay and everything to do with it. So this period is always between April and March. And the final section is this period section, where it gives you what your net pay is and whatever pensionable pay that has been taken from you. So the first section we'll be looking at is the employee profile section, where you have your assignment number, your department, your name, your job title, the location of where you're working, what band you're on, what your salary is as a full-time staff. It tells you about how many hours you're working and what your part-time wage is. If you're working part-time, your part-time wage will be reflected on the right-hand side, telling you what your part-time hours is, even though you know what the full-time equivalent. Or if you work full-time, that will be on the left-hand side. If you do work full-time, the salary wage and the part-time wage should be the same in your pay slip. So make sure that that's correct. It will show you what NI number you're on. It will also give you what tax code you are currently on as well, and tells you what tax office reference number that is attached to this and where the tax office is, so you're very clear as to what's going on. This the tax rate for the UK, you can pause it to just know what it is. The next section we'll be looking at is the pay and allowances. So it gives you what your basic pay is and every other extra payments that you've had. So in terms of you working night duty, Saturday, unsociable hours, weekday, or outer London pay, on-call pay, your absence pay, and any absence that you've had in that month. So it kind of gives you a breakdown of what has happened to you in that month. Unsociable hours, bank holidays, night shifts, Saturdays and Sundays, and on-call hours, any overtime. The payment for these extra hours or extra shifts that you've done depends on each trust and the department that you actually work in. So you will need to know what the payment schedule is in your trust for all these extra shifts that you've done. For Saturdays, midnight to midnight, 30% of the hours you've worked will be paid at the same rate. For bank holidays and Sundays, that's midnight to midnight, 60% of the hours you've worked on bank holidays or Sundays. The bank shift and overtime shift really depends on your trust or your department, like I explained to you earlier. Some trusts pay an hour and a half for your shift. For example, if you work for 10 hours, you get paid for 15 hours. Each NHS trust has its own bank staff, and you need to just make sure that you're speaking to your HR about this or speaking to payroll about this to know what is being paid in your trust. I hope you've been able to understand this. So with regards to deductions, to simply explain, is the basic rate tax deduction is usually 20% of your gross salary for basic rate taxpayers. If your salary exceeds 40,000, that will have a different number crunching process. So if your salary is more than £40,000, you would have it, you'll be put on a different tax bracket. Employers are responsible for calculating this following the guidance from HMRC. So whatever tax code that you're on will determine how much you'll be taxed on. But of this payslip that we're using, it has 1382L as the tax code. That means £13,820 would not be taxed. So until you've been paid that amount of money from working, you wouldn't be taxed on anything. So the rest of your money would be taxed. So what this means is that based on the salary of this person, only £17,714 would be taxed on 20%. The NI, on the other hand, these are contributions that allow you to use certain state benefits. And depending on what kind of visa you're on, it might differ for you. So you need to make sure that you're checking to make sure that you're on the right visa to be able to be entitled to certain benefits in the UK. Working within the NHS, you really don't have a choice, because the NI, taxes and your pension, if you're in the pension scheme, will be automatically taken out of your salary before you get paid. For NHS pensions, depending on what salary you're on, will determine what your NHS pension contribution is. Your contribution would be based on your annual salary and what bracket it falls under within the NHS pension contribution. Based on the salary of the sample payslip, you can see it falls under the fourth bracket. These figures I'm using is based on the 2025-2026 salary. So this pension contribution would increase to 9.8 as per the new year 2025-2026 contribution. But the one on the salary I believe is from 2022, so which was still at the 9.3 mark. If there are any other expenses that needs to be taken out, this is where you're going to see it written in this section. So the next section we'll be looking at is the year-to-date section. This is the summary of your gross pay and all your deduction. But most of us will put our eyes into what the net pay is. So net pay is how much money you would receive in your bank account. Your gross pay is what employees earn before taxes, benefits, and other payroll deductions are withheld from their wages. Year-to-date summary. So this is what just gives you what your gross pay is, your national insurance contribution, your pensionable pay, and your reference number for pension. It talks about your pension contribution and your taxable pay as well, and the amount of tax you've paid and the previous year. The employee number here is unique to you at your current trust. So if you go to another trust, this number should change. The final section is this part, and the most important part is the net pay. So after all the deductions have been done, this is the amount of money you are left with in that month. So yeah, you see what your pensionable pay is, your tax period, when it starts, which is usually between April to March every year. It talks about the frequency of how you're paid, the taxable amount that will be taxed, and total payments that you've been deducted in that month, or payments for the year so far. I hope you found this video useful in understanding your NHS payslip. I hope I've been able to help you shed some more light into understanding what each section means and how to decode the NHS payslip. Until next time, where I'll bring you more facts about the NHS, I hope to see you in my next video. Take care. Bye.